Hello, dear students. I hope the material of chapter 1, which I have sent you earlier, is very much clear to all of you. So, now moving on to the next topic of the first chapter, that is the characteristics of business activities. So, before knowing or doing the characteristics of business activities, one should know what are basically the characteristics. So, characteristics are basically the traits of some person. For example, if I talk about two students, that Mr. X is tall and Mr. Y is short. So, tall and short are basically the characteristics of those persons, right? So, same way, there are characteristics of business activities, which means what is basically covered under that particular thing, that is business activities, right? So let us start with the first point. First point of characteristics is it is an economic activity. As I have already discussed this point with you in the earlier previous discussion, that economic activity is an activity which is basically done to earn the profits, right? Same way, economic activity is the characteristics of business, because business is basically run or done to earn the profits. So same way, economic activity is done to earn the profit. So I think this point is clear, because an economic activity basically covers, for example, purchase and sale by the shopkeeper on large scale, and then finally selling it to the final consumer to earn the profits. This is economic activity. So business is carried on for the economic activity. So moving on to the next point, it is production or procurement of goods and services. So there are 2 points, that is production and procurement. Production, as we know, it is basically the manufacturing done by the manufacturer, right? So there can be 2 options. First is production, as I told you, manufacturing. Another is procurement. Procurement is basically buying from the manufacturers and then selling those goods to the consumers. So if one person is a businessman, then he can do these 2 things. Either he can produce himself, or he can buy it from the producer and then finally sell it to the consumer, right? So if these 2 things are there, that is basically what business activity, right? Let's take an example for this, that if Sonalika is producing the tractors, then that is basic. If he is producing all the parts of the tractors himself, then it will be known as production, and then selling those goods in the market. For example, in other way, if he is producing the tractors but he is buying the tires from somebody else, that is basically procurement of tires, and then assembling it and then selling to the final consumer. So this is basically what production or either procurement of the goods. So I think this point is clear to all of you. Moving on to the next point, it is sale or exchange of goods and services. So very much clear. If there is business, then there will be sale or exchange of goods and services. For example, we can say that if somebody is producing the goods, he will not keep it in the godown. He will sell those goods to earn the profit. And if he will not sell, that is not to be known as business. And if he is selling the goods he has produced or procured, then that is basically the part of the business. So business involves sale and exchange of goods and services, right? I think this is also clear. Moving on to the next point, it is dealings in goods and services on regular basis. Suppose this example will be taking on later on. Let me explain the point first. It basically covers that if you are doing business, then it should be done again and again. It should not be like this, you do it for one time and then you stay at your home, right? It is not like that. If you are dealing in business, then you have to do the business activities again and again. That is, it is on the regular basis. If it's being done for one time, it is basically not the business. It is what, either for the household consumption or for any other purpose, right? Let's take an example for this. Suppose a person sell his or her domestic radio set. उसके घर में पड़ा हुआ था radio set, and he sells it to one of his friend. Then it is basically not a business activity, because he has done that activity for the one time. But if the same person is dealing with selling of the radio sets, and he is running a shop for that, and he is doing that on regular basis, then that will be known as the business. So he is done doing the same on regular basis, then it is a business that is dealings in goods and services again and again or on regular basis, right? So moving on to the next point, it is profit earning. This is again repetition. If business is an economic activity and economic activity is done to earn the profits, same way it is the same, right? That is, to earn the profit, we run business. This is basically the repetition. I think this point is clear to all of you, right? Next point is uncertainty of return. Obviously, if business is there is always an uncertainty. Uncertainty means not surety that we'll be earning the profits or not. Sometimes business might not earn the profits. Sometimes it may earn very much higher profits, right? That there is sometimes some businesses have stability of earning profits, but sometimes some business might not have stability. So always a risk of uncertainty, or we can say the uncertainty of returns can be there. Sometime we can have high, as I told you earlier. Sometime we can have low profits, right? This is basically what business is. For example, if we talk about employment, the employee is getting salary every month, whether that particular business is running efficiently or not, right? But in business, if might be lower sales are there, then hopefully what will be the result? The result will be zero profit, right? So uncertainty of return is there, right? So moving on to the next point, or the last point, we can say it is element of risk. We all know that basically the business involves high risk because our competitors, right? The risk is there because there can be some kind of unfavorable or undesirable event. In that particular time, suppose change in the consumer's demand, taste unka change ho gaya, so what will be there? They'll not buy your product, then your sales will be low. In that case, risk is there, right? So in business, element of risk is very, very high. Clear? I hope all the characteristics are very much clear to all of you. So now moving on to the next topic, it is objectives of business, right? So let us start with the topic. Objectives are basically the aims of the business, right? So there are many aims of the business, but the most important aim the business is being carried on by the people is to earn the profits. So the foremost point is that only, that is to earning profits or to earn profits, the businesses are being carried on by the organizations. That point is, I have explained you so many times. I think that point is very much clear to all of you, right? So moving on to the second point, it is market standing. Market standing is a new point to you people. Market standing is basically a concept that at what position with your competitors you are being seen by the consumers in the market, or we can say at what position you stand in comparison to your competitors in the market. So a business enterprise must aim at standing on stronger footing in terms of offering competitive products to its customer and serving them for their better satisfaction, because in this modern era the businesses are being focused on what customers want, not what they want to sell, right? If they want a better market standing in the market against the competitors, then in that case business has to produce the things which are basically demanded by the consumers, so that they will feel satisfied and they'll be buying your products again and again. So market standing is one of the main objective every business should or have to achieve, right? So moving on to the next point, it is innovation. Innovation means we can say introduction of new ideas or methods of doing some work. That is, we can say the new discoveries. That is basically what innovation known as, right? There can be two kinds of innovation every business can do. First one is innovation in product or service, and second one is innovation in various skills and activities, right? Number one basically focuses on when you are producing some product and you bring some kind of innovation in that particular product or service you are providing to the society. And second one is innovation in the skills of the persons. Suppose you are doing some activity, you find a better way of doing that particular activity is basically what innovation, right? So innovation basically, if any business wants to stand in front of the customers or competitors, in that case innovation is very much required. Let's take the example of Apple phones. Apple, every September they launch new phone. This is because they want to stand in the market in front of their competitors to provide better products to their customers, right? I think this point is clear. Next point is productivity. So productivity is basically the comparison, you can say, between the output and the input, right? How much efficiently you are utilizing your inputs for better results of the output, right? If one person is producing inputs and in return they are producing good number of output or good output, good quality of output, that person or business is basically able to run efficiently and effectively in the market, right? So in order to ensure the continuous survival and progress, every enterprise should aim at greater or higher productivity by optimally utilizing all the resources they are being available with, right? I think this point is clear. So moving on to the next point, it is physical and financial resources. So physical resources basically means, or we can say, the raw materials or any other material which may cover machineries, right? Also, so that next is other is financial resources. We all know that basically covers the finance or the money we require for running a business. So if an enterprise wants to run effectively and efficiently, in that case they need both physical and financial resources, and that should be in a good number. So every business enterprise should aim at acquiring both of these resources according to the requirements of their business, right? They require both the resources and in a proper quantity, right? I hope this point is clear to all of you. So here we come to the end of the multiple, or we can say, the objectives of business. I hope all the objectives are very much clear to all of you. So now moving on to the next topic, it is basically the topic of business risks, right? So what is business risk? It is basically, we can say, the possibility of inadequate profits or even losses due to uncertainties or unexpected events, right? In other ways we can say that मेरे business में कुछ ऐसी mishappening या unexpected event हो गया due to which मेरे business को losses हो गए, या फिर कुछ ऐसी situation हो गई, ऐसी uncertainty हो गई, ऐसा event हो गया जिससे मुझे profits भी हो गए. So business risk can be profits also or even losses also, right? Due to any kind of unexpected event, right? Let's take an example. Suppose some competitor came into the market and my business faces losses because there is a change in the taste and preference of the consumers who were buying my products. Now they have been shifted to the competitor of mine, right? So that is basically a business risk for me. Moving on to the next topic, it is nature of business risk. Starting with the first point, it is business risk arises due to uncertainties, right? So before explaining this point, you should know uncertainty. Uncertainty is basically the lack of knowledge about what is going to happen in future, right? We do not know what will be happening in future, so that is basically uncertainty, right? It can be any kind of natural calamities, change in the demand and prices, change in the government policies, prices, etc. And the current example, we can say the coronavirus, right? This is what the uncertainty, we do not knowing about this, that it will occur in the future. Now it is affecting so many businesses, right? So with this point, this virus, the businesses are, as I told you, are running into losses, and this is basically what the business risk, which is basically running or arises due to the uncertainty of coronavirus, right? I think this point is clear. So moving on to the next point, it is risk is an essential part of every business, right? So we all know, as I've already discussed with you people, that if business is there, risk will be there, and higher risk, higher profit, right? So no business can avoid any risk, but it can reduce its risk. How? We all know these days, insurance policies. if I know that some kind of risk is there, but I don't know how much can it be. It can be higher also, it can be lower also. So in that case, for covering or reducing that particular risk, the business houses take the insurance policies, right? So it is part of the business, we cannot avoid it, but we can minimize our risk. ठीक है, चलो moving on to the next point. Degree of risk depends upon the nature and size of the business. It is very much from the point itself that if suppose we can say any business is on large scale, and large scale business means higher risk, right? And another example can be like this: if some kind of fashionable clothes business is being run by some person, and we know that there is quick change in the taste and preferences or fashions in the market, so they can have more risk than some other kind of business. Then we can say the Karyana stores. So fashionable items, more risk; large scale items, large scale businesses, more risk, right? So risk basically depends upon the nature and what kind of business you are running, right? I think this point is clear to all of you. The last point is profit is the reward for risk taking. So as I told you, if business is there, risk is there, and higher risk and higher profits. So you cannot eliminate your risk, you can minimize your risk. Well, fine. So if you're taking higher risk, somehow you can have higher profits, right? Because risk, every business has to take it, because it can be there, like if you are taking the risk, you can earn higher profits. So we can, simple words, and we can say that, so an entrepreneur should undertake risk other than the expectation of higher profits. So if he is taking the risk, he can have higher profits, right? So I think this point is clear to all of you. So moving on to the last topic, that is the causes of business risk. So there are basically 4 causes. Number 1 is human cause. Human cause, why business risk arise, that is one of the reason is human causes. For example, any person's dishonesty in the organization can result into the higher losses to the organization, right? That is basically the human losses or human causes when the business faces the risk, right? And this kind of risk is basically controllable. If your employees are happy from you, they'll not reveal your secrets to the competitors. So if they are satisfied, chances of human causes can be reduced and the risk can be minimized with this thing, right? Next point is natural causes. Natural causes are basically the natural calamities which can affect your business. And one example again I can take is in this point is coronavirus. That is a natural cause, we can say, but it is basically not a natural cause, but we can take this example into this point. So natural calamities which can affect your business, and your business may be at a stake of higher risk, right? I think both points are clear to all of you. Next is the third cause is economic cause. So economic cause is basically when some changes are there in the economy, or we can say in the consumers you are being dealing with, right? So example we can take in this point is that some changes in the government policies, right? Changes in the taste and preferences of your customers, right? So these kind of causes can also affect your business, but you have a little control on the economic causes, because if government is taking some action, in that case you have to obey those particular actions, right? So I hope the third point is also very much clear to all of you. And last is other causes. Other causes may cover many points, like for example political disturbances can be there, change in the political party, then mechanical failures, like some kind of mechanical failure of your machines in the organization, or other we can say that fluctuations in the exchange rate, etc., which increases the chances of the business risk, right? I hope all the points are very much clear to all of you. So I end up with today's lecture. Thank you.